Welcome everybody to Service Drive Revolution International Truck Edition. We have an exciting show today. We're going to talk about what we're reading and learning, and also about the future of EVs and what our thoughts are and insights. How's it going, Jeremy and Adam? How are you guys today?
Doing well, Chris. Doing well.
How about you, Adam?
Super excited.
Fantastic. Glad to be here.
That was very believable, by the way. Fantastic.
Yeah, I say that when I really don't mean it's fantastic myself.
Yeah. What's going on, buddy? Are you okay? Do we need to talk about anything?
Just a little tired. The kid's starting to go through a little sleep regression. So,
yay.
Yeah, so Jeremy knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, besides that, it's been pretty good.
What are you reading right now? What's inspiring you?
So I thought it was, or I'd say month of March is typically kind of an exciting month for me, especially, you got St. Patrick's Day. I'm a March baby. Most of my friends actually have March birthdays as well, so it's kind of a party type of month. But not only that, it's National Women's Month as well. I don't know if you guys know that at all, but I'd say for this, I picked a very festive and kind of book, but also enlightening. It's called Whiskey Women. It's the untold story of how women saved bourbon, Scotch, and Irish whiskey by Fred Minnick. Have you guys ever heard of it?
No, but this may be the best book that anybody's ever brought up on the show.
Well, I'll be totally honest. I haven't finished it all. I feel like I kind of start like 4 or 5 books, right? I'm just kind of like Colleen and the books stage. But I thought this was kind of interesting because I was trying to find some books outside of the whole leadership, business kind of realm, kind of change things up. So I was curious about just bourbon. I think we were talking a little bit ago. I'm planning a bachelor party for one of my best friends. He's getting married here soon down in Louisville, Kentucky, and I know I pronounced that wrong. So all of my friends out there, Louisville, will correct me. Yes, and we're gonna try to hit the bourbon trail a little bit. So I was just kind of curious on some other ones that are out there. But anyways, they kind of start the historical aspect of just brewing beer. So in Mesopotamia, there are historical facts that women actually created the first kind of, fermenting of berries into wine, actually creating a beer. Did you know that? No. So that's great, though. Thank all the women out there that we have these fantastic beverages. Starting back in the olden times of ancient civilization, leading up to now. So actually, I think when we think about, or we're told about with women in Prohibition, they were heavily influenced that, but they also had a lot of different activities during bootlegging as well. So they played all sides of that. And then in times of war, they stepped up to the occasion, not only building and manufacturing, but also making sure that we had liquor, distilling as well. But I'd say probably one of the coolest facts that, I think we've all heard of Maker's Mark. And if I just scroll down here, I just want to make sure I don't butcher the name as I usually do, is Marge Samuels. So look her up. She really definitely was the force behind the creation of Maker's Mark. Talking about with her husband on opening a distillery back in the day. So really, it's quite interesting, and I think that's great. That's great because I'm a bourbon guy. So I won't share with you guys my favorite, but I do have the glass, and I am pretty particular on my ice. Having the one solid ice cube is crucial, and I like to have around three finger lengths in there, 4th if it's been a rough week. So who knows, with this sleep regression, I might have 4. But yeah, that's the book I'm reading.
What is your favorite? I think I know your favorite because I've witnessed you order it before, but what is your favorite?
I'd say right now it's probably Buffalo Trace.
That's one of the tours, right, that you can go on?
Yes. And
so
Woodford's
it's funny
good.
that you're saying this, because next month I'm going to Kentucky to do a leadership workshop, and I was thinking about staying a couple of days because our clients there have always offered to take me on the Bourbon Trail, and I was thinking about hitting a couple. I don't think I need to hit them all, but hitting 2 or 3 of them might be really fun doing the tour. I'm not sure if they're open yet because of COVID, but I'm a tequila guy, but I would love to be educated and learn more about it.
Well, so I'll say this, from some of my fact finding, most of them are open in some sort of limited capacity. One of the misconceptions, though, because of the Bourbon Trail, it's not like a whiskey row where all the bars are next to each other. So to hit a good majority of them, you're going to be spending more time in the car hitting them up. But I will say this, whiskey in itself, or bourbon, has really grown to where it's there for sipping, and testing in the smoothness, but it's all based on their barrels too and how they're aged. I don't know. I haven't gone through the tour, so I'm pretty stoked about going there in summer and checking them out myself. But I've heard Woodford, Buffalo Trace is pretty good, but I'm sure there's a few other ones. I like the kind of like the hole in the wall type distilleries type things, because I like the rich history, as you know.
Yeah, and the craftsmanship, right? Like the love and the passion of small batch. So I was approached a little while ago about doing my own tequila, and I've learned a lot about the process. And a lot of these big companies, like, say for example, Tito's Vodka or whatever, only a small percentage of it is handcrafted. It's mass produced. And so I agree with you, is that small, intimate, smaller batch stuff is really, it's art in a way, right? There's a lot of love. It's
about the process. Yeah. And we'll keep it for another segment, but that's how I feel about barbecue and the whole smoking process. I prefer the traditional Texas style smoker rather than these fakes that like to do the pellet grills.
I couldn't agree
There's
more.
A process into it. Yeah, there's a process to it, just like handcrafted, alcohol.
Is the pellet one called Traeger?
Well, they're their brand.
And so you're saying that people with the Traeger are fake barbecue?
Yes.
So I should send my Traeger back?
Hey, it's all up to the perception interpretation. You're gonna think I'm crazy that I prefer to spend the 12 to 18 hours with like 2 hours of sleep, stoking the fire and making sure that I've got a good, perfect bark on either, my pork butt, or even, good smoke ring on the ribs, and you go and spend all that time and effort for what? How fast does it take to eat it? 10, 15 minutes? But for me, I like that process.
Yeah.
I think it's great, just great, that Adam has read all these wonderful books. You know what I read? I read The World's Worst Thesaurus. Not only was it terrible, but it was terrible.
That was a Christian drive-by. Thanks for that, Christian. Okay, well, we need to thank all the ladies in the world for contributing whiskey to society, right? That's what we've learned.
Yes,
so
sir.
any ladies that I walk by the rest of the day, I'm going to thank them randomly because of you, Adam. So the book I'm reading is Jordan Peterson's new book, Beyond Order. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's an autographed copy also.
Ooh, signed copy. It even has a sticker that says signed copy.
So this is the follow-up to 12 Rules for Life, which was incredible, which was the follow-up to his first book, Maps of Meaning. But it's a great-looking book too. He had a contest for the person to do the images in it, And he actually put up a podcast recently interviewing her who won it, talking about the graphics and the design in it. But I like it better than the last one. It's great. There's great stuff in here. So you want me to read you guys just the rules?
Yes.
More than anything.
Rule number 1, do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. That's clearly for you, Jeremy. Number 2, imagine who you could be and then aim single-mindedly at it. So, you know, shoot for full potential. Number 3, do not hide unwanted things in the fog.
I like that one. That's good.
Or the elephant in the room, right?
Yep.
Number 4, notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated.
That's definitely good for these times.
Number 5, do not do what you hate. Number 6, abandon ideology. Number 7, work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens. Number 8, try to make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. Clearly, Jeremy's doing that.
Obviously here.
Yeah, with the cat thing. Number 9, if old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely. Number 10, plan and work diligently to maintain the romance in your relationship.
Well, I already got that one. I mean, it's like
Really,
two
what
rules.
romantic things have you done today for your wife?
You know, I mean, they don't come to mind, but I'm sure I've done several ones of those.
So you can't remember, but you're sure you did it.
Definitely. As a personality type, I can tell that I have.
I can tell you if you're explaining, you're losing.
Did you get up this morning and make your wife like coffee and bring it to her in bed?
Definitely not, but I know that she likes to make her own coffee, so there you go, you know.
So you allowed her to make her own coffee, which in return is you.
Let's get it right, Chris. She was probably already up, and he was already still sleeping.
Plan and work diligently to maintain the romance in your relationship. What are you doing, Adam, to maintain the romance in your relationship?
I make coffee every morning. I get the kid up and ready and raring to go. It's a trade-off.
So that's not romance, by the way.
Oh, man.
So clearly I need to read you the definition of romance. Okay, next one. 11, do not allow yourself to become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant.
Hold on a second. Chris, what are you doing?
What do you mean?
Go retract back. You got Jeremy. You got me. How are you doing for romance?
Oh, I'm doing great, but my fiance just had a birthday, so a couple days ago. So I'm good. I got her some cool stuff for her birthday. We had a little celebration for her. So I mean, I can probably ride that for another couple weeks.
There you go.
I'm guessing, unless you've heard different. What did you hear? Number 12, be grateful in spite of your suffering.
I like
be grateful in spite of your suffering. I love Jordan. He's my favorite. Honestly,
I'm about to start his the book previous to this one, but I have been watching a lot of videos on him and some of his interviews. And what I appreciate about him as an author, and I'm not one either, so I just thought this was very interesting. Did you know that he is so meticulous in his writings that he'll take sentences and he'll keep rewriting them and rewording them to be almost perfection? So like when he goes and writes and authors a book, it's basically perfection in his mind. I thought that was quite interesting, as you know, how an author really dissects their own work. And if you do check out on audiobooks, he does read his own books. So I know that was one of our things too. So I thought that was another just added bonus.
Yeah, you see that book behind you, Millionaire Service Advisor?
Yeah.
I obsessed about every sentence in that, rewrote them over and over again.
See, I think that's great.
I'm joking. No,
oh, thanks.
That's that story comes from Maps of Meaning, his first book, which is really dense, but packed with a lot of information. But he said when he wrote that, it took him a long time because he would obsess about the sentences like that. While he wrote that book while he was at Harvard, while he was a professor at Harvard. You should start with Maps of Meaning, maybe.
Should I? Okay. So I'll have both of them going at the same time, or is that a bad move?
My favorite chapter in 12 Rules for Life is the one about don't raise kids that you don't like. And he makes the point in there that like there is a point where you're in charge of what they eat, where they go, what they watch, what they think. You're programming them, and don't lose that opportunity.
I feel like that even right now, and she's going to be 10 months soon, because I get the morning routine and I like to watch the news in the morning, and the whole bottle in the morning, she kind of just turns her head and she starts watching TV, and I'm like, oh, I don't want her to start that just yet. Getting excited, so I got to turn it off.
Oh, yeah. You don't want her excited about the TV?
We don't want to introduce that just yet. She really likes books. Unlike her dad previously to all this, she loves books. Pout Pout Fish awesome. Is probably her favorite.
What one's her favorite?
Pout Pout Fish.
Cool, I like that one too. Classic.
Never heard of it. What's inspiring you, Jeremy?
Well, I just want to launch on a very quick statement about bachelor parties and how I resent that the recent trend has been to take someone to a place they like and do something that they like during a bachelor party. That was not my experience. I feel like I was the last person to get abused in a place I did not like from my bachelor party. I think that should be the tradition. But, everyone's like doing like nice things for their best man's doing nice things for the groom, and that's nice. That was not my experience. I feel like Cobra Commander planned my bachelor party, because it's just the worst minds of all my friends came together and produced this truly awful experience for me. So I'm resentful, but I hope you enjoy your event down in Bourbon Country.
Well, maybe after years of therapy, you can get through that. And maybe the lesson in that, Jeremy, is you need new friends.
Yeah, I didn't mean it. I did meet new friends, but we'll talk. That's for another edition. Jeremy's foray into the seedy parts of Chicago, unwillingly.
I would love to go with Adam on that bachelor party though, and just videotape whatever's going on, like.
No,
just for blackmail. Blackmail later.
As far as what I'm reading, honestly, I'm deep into the boring government studies and plans and stuff like that, being that as it is for me. But what I've been really delving into lately is freight capacity and intermodal freight capacity. As boring as it sounds, it really affects a lot of my area. And what I have learned is, first of all, it's all Los Angeles' fault. Because of all the imports that are coming in that happened from the pandemic. Like, it caused huge backlogs across the country, starting at the port of Los Angeles and going all the way over to Illinois. So our intermodal freight capacity is 100% all the way up and down the state. And I thought that was really interesting because it's affecting everything else. Because as we all know about processes, when you have a bottleneck, it slows down production for the rest of it. And we're experiencing that pretty much across the board. And I've been doing a lot of reading on that because shipping really affects my area, because we're the crossroads of America. 80% of freight volume goes through Illinois and then gets taxed on it. So it's an interesting thing I've been reading about. And another thing I've been reading a lot about is how to increase the efficiency and reduce the environmental impact of shipping. And one of the cool things I've been looking at is the Port of Los Angeles is looking into electric drayage vehicles. So basically the vehicles that move the containers around short point to point, those are huge pollution drivers. And they're also very inefficient. So what they're trying to do is they're running a pilot in California for using these electric vehicles to move containers around. And I think that's really interesting. They've had a lot of struggles with, it's less about the vehicle and more about the charging infrastructure. They can't figure out how to charge these vehicles fast enough and at the same time produce a charger that a vehicle can just park on and use. And it's been an interesting development. But it's something that I've been researching a lot lately. And yeah, that's what I've been looking into besides, reading for fun.
And so what's your conclusion? What do you think will happen with that what do you think will happen with the infrastructure of charging trucks when they start coming out?
Well, I think we're going to have to plan around the demands of the industry. So we're going to have to develop inductive chargers, like kind of how when you set your phone on one of those plates, it'll charge itself. That's what we need to do for electric vehicles, and that's kind of where the direction they're going in. But as in the industry, we're going to have to plan around that as well, because that is the ultimate definition of quality is what are the customer's requirements. That's going to be the requirement. Charging a vehicle in 15 minutes, just parking over a plate. So we're going to have to change a lot in how we manufacture vehicles, how we service vehicles, just around those requirements of having electric vehicles that are built to charge super fast and need to be serviced super fast.
So the thing with that, though, is that the technology isn't there for batteries to charge super fast, right?
No, that's been one of the other challenges. It's not the capacity, it's charging them fast enough that they're still safe and charging them in a way that you don't require this really heavy, hard to use charging wire or charging cord.
Or that also doesn't diminish the longevity or the life of the battery. Because what's hard on it is charging, right?
Yeah, it's charging as much as it'll need within the smallest amount of time period. Because, the fueling, it takes about 20 minutes to fuel a standard diesel truck. That's the standard. How can we get fueling down to 15 or 20 minutes so it matches a diesel truck? And that's where honestly the biggest amount of development's being put into is charging quickly and without ruining the vehicle.
How many years do you think we're away from having that technology?
I would hope less than 5, honestly. That's the amount of development they're putting into it. I'd like to see as soon as possible, but I think less than 5 we can have these operating at ports.
What do you think is more important, the charging time or the range?
I think the charging time. If you charge really fast, you don't have to have a lot of range, as long as you have in the capacity I'm talking about. So, like with drayage vehicles, they can run their containers, do their work, and then if they're idle for a minute, they can charge. But like for long haul, it's going to be range all day, because you're going to have a lot of challenges with infrastructure, having those charging ports in enough places that electric trucks will work. So I think honestly for short hauls, it's going to be charging time. For long hauls, it's going to be battery range.
That's interesting. Well, it's interesting that California is the hub of all that, huh?
Yeah, it's again, like you are the source of the problem for a lot of shipping across the country because of all the imports coming in. So it does make sense to start using efficient technologies there, while at the same time making sure the people that live around the port don't have to deal with too much particulate matter pollution.
All this talk about electric vehicles has really made me wonder something. What do you call someone who performs a symphony on top of a Tesla truck?
What do you call someone who performs a symphony on top of a Tesla truck?
Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah.
You got it? Did he get it?
No, but that was dark. That might be better than the real answer. The answer is a semiconductor.
So you guys know Christian has a Tesla, right?
I did not know that.
He loves it, right, Christian?
I would say it's probably the easiest car that I've ever owned. But it's a lot of fun. It's quick, for sure.
What's interesting, Jeremy, is he doesn't charge it that often.
Really?
I don't put a ton of miles on it either, so I'm probably in the minority. Like, the thing is 14 months old, and I think I've got 6,000 miles on it.
Have you ever like ran it to where it's almost like dead just to see what the capacity is on it?
You know, it's surprisingly not that much. I think I've gotten to within 20 miles of where it said it was empty, and then I started to. Like, I'm nervous at 50 miles left, because sometimes, you know, the mileage indicator is not super accurate too. It's like, which is like a gas gauge, right? Like 1 second you'll be at a quarter tank and then all of a sudden the light's on. So I don't try to push it personally, because I don't like breaking down in the middle of nowhere. I don't know about you guys, but in the greater Los Angeles area, there are places that would be fun to break down and places that would not be so fun to break down. But I haven't pushed it yet.
I just remember, see, I was one of those kind of kids, a broke college kid. I didn't really always fill up the gas or the vehicle to even a quarter. So I'd always be riding on E. And my friends got stories on that, you know, a crazy car over here, it's still on E, you know, I'm just waiting to see on fumes. And I hate to admit, but I'll say it, we were at a stoplight and in the turning lane, and it just died. And the gas station, thank God, was on the corner. But I always rode it on E, and I was like, oh, probably won't do that anymore.
Well, I mean, I think we all did that, right? When you didn't have money, you just put in the money you had.
Yep, I've had to go with a gas can.
Yeah, there you go.
So one thing we're kind of noticing in automotive with electric is there's this kind of overall panic about it. Like that it's a huge change coming, you know, and that there isn't the same sort of maintenance on them. And I was on this panel and they were calling me a futurist because, you know, I kind of have a different take on all that. But I find that, like, even like with COVID, right, is there's going to be a group that panics and gets out, or what, you know, the survivalists that run up in the hills and, you know, have 200 pounds of beans and rice and water and that sort of thing. Like, they panic. But whenever there's a shift in an industry, there's huge opportunity. And so just looking at what's happened so far with electric is they break. They break, and when they break, they're really expensive to fix. So you're seeing warranty tickets that are, you know, $15,000, $20,000, very commonplace in automotive, you know, because it's new technology, right? So the idea that we're not going to have work, or, you know, they have less moving parts, does not mean that they're easier to fix. They still are complicated to fix. The batteries are complicated. The other thing that you see is because they're heavier, they go through tires quicker. So I know I've had an experience with you guys where we don't sell tires. Like, we're not selling tires. I'm not sure what that means when somebody says, I'm not selling tires, and they hit the table. You guys read tires. Body language. What does that mean?
They're not selling tires.
Yeah. Well, we might want to consider at some point getting in the tire business, because I know tire manufacturers are trying to figure it out, but they, because they're heavier, they go through tires quicker. They do catch on fire, right? Teslas, I mean, because of the batteries, there are more catching on fire, I guess. I don't know the stats to that, but I've read about it, and I've had friends that have experienced it, right? So the safety and the fire part, and then there's, you know, I think as we transition to driverless, there's going to be a lot of retrofitting going on. That's going to be a lot of work for us as an industry, especially in service and parts departments, because, you know, like let's say International comes out with a driverless truck eventually. They're probably, you are also going to package that in something that the parts department can sell and the service department can retrofit, right?
Yeah, that would be an opportunity, right?
Yeah. And also, like, there's going to be cities like Los Angeles or New York that they're going to dictate that if you want to come in within the city limits, you're going to have to be on the grid and you're going to have the driverless technology because it's safer and more efficient. And it's going to help reduce traffic because you don't need stoplights. It's kind of like, you know, air traffic control for airports, right? You don't need stoplights and all that. Because if you're on the grid, the vehicles and trucks can talk to each other and just time. So you'll just have vehicles going through intersections, like missing each other by 2 seconds. But it'll be more efficient.
Now, Chris, in your experience in the automotive side, looking at this from a dealer's kind of perspective, you said some of the repairs the warranty tickets are pretty high. Are you seeing a big differentiation that contributes to that higher warranty claim? Is it just parts, or is there a lot of labor involved that also goes into it, or is it kind of a even split?
Well, it definitely depends on the brand, but the one thing you kind of see with the batteries is that because everybody's trying to push the envelope on range, that these batteries are a little unstable. And so, you know, some of them they attempt to repair, some of them it's replace, you know. And so it just depends on the brand and which technology, because they're not all using the same technology, believe it or not, which also feeds to the infrastructure, like Jeremy was saying, of charging, where Tesla has a huge advantage on everybody else. Because I have friends that have bought other brands that are electric cars, and their frustration is they can't, you know, they can't really leave their area. You can't drive to Vegas, and a lot of the infrastructure that is out there, the charging stations aren't maintained. They're private companies, and they're inconsistent, or there's a line. And Tesla kind of has it. You know, they're ahead of the curve with that. And it's interesting too, because a lot of these companies it's not like in a gas or diesel where you can go to any gas station, right? Like you would think they would share the technology or all be on the same sort of plug and charging, and they're not. And so that creates some inconsistencies and spots throughout areas that, you know, you're in trouble if you run out of juice.
Well, I didn't really think about this until you brought that up, but I think some facilities might just be trying to have a charging station so that they can go out and market and say that, hey, check the box, we have a charging station. But you do bring up a good point. You know, I've seen out there, depending where you're at, there's been like Tesla sponsored. So you'd assume that, you know, those charging stations are pretty solid. But there's some other ones that, I mean, I don't have an electric vehicle, so I wouldn't really know. But maybe those are some kind of the minimum requirements to that. And maybe, yeah, like you said, there's going to be some sort of upkeep or maintenance on those as well that I would be curious to see if people in the industry are keeping tabs on.
Yeah, because they're usually outside companies, not owned by Ford or, you know, Porsche or Volkswagen or whatever, that they're like vending machine companies. And so they're really inconsistent in the quality and how they charge, and a lot of times they'll be broken and that's it. Like if they're not functioning, nobody's coming that day to fix them because the infrastructure just isn't there, right? They're not, those companies are startups and they're not really profitable. They're investing in the infrastructure, but they don't have the support in the techs to fix things as quick as the technology is developing, where Tesla has the infrastructure and they're maintaining it. So they're way ahead of the curve with that. And I know people that have bought other brands that regret it because they can't drive to, you know, they can't drive north or they can't go east on a road trip They just wouldn't. They need a gas car to do that.
Interesting.
I mean, I would imagine in Illinois too, it's the same thing. Like, you're just not going to go south in Illinois.
Well,
once you're outside of Chicago, long. Yeah, with you know, or you're not going to go to Indiana.
I mean,
you just wouldn't.
Yeah, wouldn't go there anyway.
So you kind of need somebody to step in and create an infrastructure that is consistent and well planned out in order for it to really work, you know, which will eventually happen. But it seems like, you know, Tesla has that advantage. Now, I know Volkswagen plans on putting, I think, something like 5,000 charging stations in the US and Canada. And so that would serve Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche. But they understand that they have to invest in that, and other brands are kind of thinking the same, but it takes a while, and it's very expensive.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about Tesla is people rip on Tesla a lot because they don't make money, or they haven't made a lot of revenue, but they're setting something up. It's kind of like similar to the air industry back in the early 1920s. You know, there wasn't a lot of airports. There wasn't a lot of planes, but there was a lot of investment at the time to build airports and to put out new planes. It's similar because there's nothing to compare this to as far as setting up an infrastructure. It's just we have our existing diesel and gas infrastructure, but that took 100 years to build. So we're trying to build the same thing with electric in a smaller amount of time. So it's going to be interesting to see when the infrastructure capacity matches up with the amount of demand for electric vehicles, and if that's going to happen in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, our dealers also, it's even for heavy trucks, the demand is going to happen. So it's the question is how do we get prepared for the next generation of vehicles, and who needs to get prepared for it and when?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any friends that have bought Teslas, but what's interesting is that they describe them like, this is how it should always be, and I would never go to anything else, which is the loyalty is very interesting and something to study and understand, because they're doing a lot of things right, and the feeling of the consumer is that it's easy, that the whole process of buying, of driving, of maintaining is just really, really easy. And I've heard people describe, and even Christian and I talked about it a little bit because I was asking him about it, is like, you never go to a gas station again. Like you're charging when you're sleeping. So it's never a thought. You know, the only thing you're doing is plugging it in, and that's it. And so just the idea of never going to a gas station again is interesting in and of itself, because, you know, I'm driving a Jeep truck and I'm at the gas station once a week.
Yeah,
and spending a lot of money.
Well, and you're changing your habits. Because
I'm spending like $70 too.
Well, think about some people's probably morning routine, or at least once or twice a week, right? They go to the gas station, get their coffee, make those stops, right? Gone. Just some of those little nuances.
Yeah, and also like, so the Jeep I'm driving is due for an oil change, and like, I don't have a Jeep client right here that I'm real close to. Like, one of our clients owns a bunch of dealerships here, but you know, I'm not going to call him and say I need an oil change, and like, you know, it just, I don't want to bother anybody, but it's going to be a nightmare to just get a simple oil change on it, right?
Sometimes it is, yeah.
And so you think about that with these electric, you know, vehicles, all that kind of goes away. So the consumers now, if you went back to filling up every week, having to go in for service, you know, for oil changes every 6 months, like it changes your expectations in a way. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's a huge. It's also like a cultural mind shift, not just an industry, right? Like I think what you just said, that's interesting to go from doing all of that kind of maintenance related activities to really just, if it was truly just focusing on alignments of tires, kind of thing. I mean, yeah. What are you going to do with all this free time?
You got to be able to sell that work.
Yeah, I mean, just think about how much of that work goes through our fingers that we don't recommend maintenance. We're just kind of doing in a lot of service departments, we're just doing the minimum. We're not really creating a scenario where we're, pointing out or giving the opportunity to do additional work. And so think about when it shifts, how the lack of consistency in systems is going to affect us. And that's where the opportunity is, I believe, in the future, is practicing now to have a culture in your service department of performance, have a culture of embracing change and looking for the opportunity, not trying to do the least amount possible, and not trying to create an environment where change doesn't happen. Because that's a lot of our service departments, the priority every day is avoid change. Avoid change like the plague instead of embracing it and looking for the opportunity. And if our goal as an industry is to avoid change, we're going to lose a lot of market share and a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And people will be left behind. I like your analogy of running up the hill and taking everything and packing your bags. That's running away from the change, right? I think we need to run towards the change and figure out a way so that we can control it rather than just be a victim of it.
Yeah, and change is something you practice, right?
Yeah, speaking of running, I used to think I was really, really good at jokes, and then I got hit by an electric truck. I bet you didn't hear that one coming.
I don't get it.
What?
It's one of the few ones of the Christians I do get. It's
so
Jeremy
funny.
smiled. I'll take it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. Take it.
I'm enjoying this moment.
This is great.
Yeah, so kind of to wrap all this up and talk about changes, like if you're a manager in a department right now and you went out to the shop and you told a couple of the techs that you wanted them to move their stall, like I want you to move from here to there, what do you think the general reaction would be of that?
Oh, the resistance.
Yeah, so if we're resistant to a simple thing like moving our stall, how resistant are we to an industry change?
Well, much bigger.
So it's something you practice, right? Like I like to move advisors around. I like to move techs around. I like to constantly practice change and efficiency, and hey, maybe we'd be more efficient if the advisors were here, or you were here, you're a better advisor, but most of what we do is these little things is we're trying to avoid change at all costs, when what we really need to do is practice change, because if we practice change, it no longer affects us, and then we can see the opportunity. But if we're bummed out for a week and we're going home and kicking our dog because we want you to move your stall across, the shop, that's a pretty low bar when the industry is changing as dramatically as it is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Makes sense.
Jeremy's like, I don't want to move my stall.
I'm totally, look, my stall has changed. I have a cat tree in my background now.
I kind of miss the basement.
I do too. And I think we'll start with, let's move the cat tree over on the other side of the room. Can we change that stall?
Oh, you'd like to see that? Oh, there's the door. That's on the other side of the room. So,
Jeremy, we're trying to make a point about change here. You could go with it. Like the thing to do is you could have just stood up and moved it. We're talking about change.
Why is the window open? It's not that warm outside.
What do you call that thing? The cat, what is it, a jungle gym?
I thought it was a cat tree.
Cat tree.
The cat tree industry is changing right in front of our eyes. Cats demand more variety in their cat trees. They want a vending machine. They want catnip. They want privacy.
Jeremy, that looks like a small room. Are you in the same room with the cat and its litter box?
No comment.
Too bad this isn't smell-o-vision, scratch and sniff. Great stuff, you guys. Fun talking about EVs and seeing like what is the future. And I think that the secret to that is to keep an open mind and look for the opportunity and start practicing change and efficiency in systems now. And you'll get a big part of the market share when everybody else is running for the hills.
I have a feeling we'll be doing these calls in 3 years. We'll be talking about, hey, remember when we were talking about electric trucks and how they were on the horizon? How crazy is that? Like, it's the bar always moves.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see what happens. I mean,
don't do tires.
We do not do tires. I need to get a body language expert to tell me what that means when somebody accentuates the point with hitting the table.
It's aggression.
Like, I'm hungry. I do not do tires.
They have to hit something. That's what that means.
I think of Bam Bam in the Flintstones when that happens. I don't know why.
Hey, I'm going to tell you this. There's a lot of money in tires.
We don't do tires.
That's awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Welcome, Chris. Great discussion as always.
See you next time on Service Drive Revolution.